welcome back to Translate Relate. Today we are going to be talking about hungers, strokes and time structuring. I'm Jenna and this is Becky. And Becky, you are going to introduce us to hungers.
Hungers, yeah. I love the yeah, that does come in. that goes in
I wasn't sure about copyright
well.
then, so I was like,
oh. We don't own the rights.
Yes,
to
we
that
do
song.
not.
I love the way that Berne talks about hungers, as in just that word. People often sort of compare it a little bit to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it's a little bit different. And what I love about the hungers thing, I think, well, I'm a person whose life is ruled by my stomach. I'm either thinking about how much it's grown or how hungry it is. But, hunger, that to me feels like almost a stronger word than a need. Like, hunger, we need to be filled up in some way. Anyway, that's just my love of the word hungers. He talked about us having three main hungers. The first is our stimulus hunger. So we have a hunger for physical, biological, and mental stimulation to work our brains and to keep our brains stimulated. We have a recognition hunger. And I love this one. The idea of being recognised for who we are and for what we do. And at that acknowledgement of our existence. And strokes kind of comes into that. That's the way that we recognise it. I'll go on to explain about strokes a bit more in a minute. And the final one, a structure hunger. The need to structure our time in such a way that means that we get those strokes that we need. So that's twice I've mentioned strokes now. So what are strokes? Within TA, strokes are what we call units of recognition. And they can be positive, they can be negative, they can be conditional, so for doing something, or they can be unconditional, just for being.
You managed to get here on time today. Well done.
Yeah. Or just, you are wonderful.
And that's conditional.
That's a conditional.
Based on you getting here on time.
Yeah. Yes. So that is when you get a stroke. You get that conditional stroke because you have done something good. Or you get the unconditional stroke, let's say it's just a positive one, that you are wonderful. Or it could be an unconditional negative, you are a waste of space. And I can't help but do this when I talk about strokes, because I do literally think about that sort of process of giving and receiving, because that's an important part of strokes, that they are something that are given, but you also need to actually receive them. And so it does make me think a little bit about that process of actually stroking a pet. And it's something that you give, but if your pet moves away, then they're not going to receive those strokes.
Yeah, and what you're saying there about giving and receiving, it makes me think again, we're bringing this back to ourselves and looking at what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost holding ourselves to account there.
But something that we often then talk about with strokes, I have to be kind of careful how I phrase this because I don't want it to come across wrong. Because what I was going to say is that any strokes are better than no strokes at all, which isn't quite true. There are times when we really just want to be by ourselves. But what I mean to explain this a bit further is, if you've ever been around kids and all of a sudden they just do something completely stupid out of the blue, something that, you've told them off for 1,000 times, but they do it again anyway. And so you react to that and you tell them off. They've got a stroke. They've got something out of it. So whatever they were doing before, whether that's they were just playing nicely before with their brother. I'm thinking about my two now. They were just playing nicely. But I wasn't giving any strokes to them for the fact that they were playing nicely. They're not getting many strokes from each other in their game. So then one hits the other and then they get stroked for that. They're negative strokes. I'm telling them off. It's negative from their sibling who's getting really upset, but they've got a stroke. Doesn't matter how they got it, they got one.
I describe it as turning the volume up.
Yeah.
So I'm playing here quite happily. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, so that playing here quite happily didn't get me any attention, I'll just turn it up a little bit and then a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then I've got it.
Yeah, got it. Finally got it. I finally got that stroke. And we can, I describe that with children, but I imagine that as we all sit here, we can think about examples of adults do that. And we all do that. We all do that. We all look to get our stroke needs
moving
met.
uncomfortably.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But within this, there are rules around strokes, right? Jen, do you want to share some more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I've maybe said it on all the videos that we've done, but really like this idea. And so I've got my post-it notes and I've got my notes just to make sure I don't forget any of the points. So Claude Steiner suggests, so in 1966, there are 5 myths around how we give and receive strokes. And that there's almost a stroke economy, which was compared to the market economic.
The financial economy, yeah. The economic, yeah.
So that there is the capability to hoard, there's a capability to withdraw, there is a shortage. Not all strokes are made equal, as in like cost.
Yep.
So some might be more valuable. Maybe that's a better way of explaining it. Some strokes might be more valuable than others. So what we've got here, the rules are, don't just give away strokes. Just give them away willy-nilly. And that might be casual compliments. And what I'm going to do the 5 strokes and the rules, and then I'm going to give you my examples that I've made notes on. So yeah, don't just give them willy-nilly, because then when we talk about a market economy scale, there'll be an expectation back then. There'll be some exchange there within this stroke economy. You've done this, so they'll expect that, or, so people are almost quite suspicious there. And these are around what lessons did we learn as a child when we were given strokes or receiving them. So don't ask for strokes. Don't ask for strokes, even if you need them, not just want them, but need them. Don't ask for them, because if you ask for them, it's almost like the spell's broken. Doesn't matter. They're just not as valuable as receiving them without the ask.
Yeah.
Don't accept strokes. I could have done better. Yeah, it's okay, but I could have done better. So don't just accept them. Just discount away and just don't. Which brings me to another one. Don't stroke yourself. Self-praise might be seen as arrogant, and we don't want that, do we? So don't accept strokes. People might have that same idea as well. If they're accepting all the time, like, yeah, I did do a good job there. We're accepting, and we're also giving ourselves strokes. And don't reject strokes. So this one is around, the example given is if we have got a lady who is given strokes for being beautiful, she is now not able to say, please don't comment on my looks, comment on my intelligence. So you still have to accept them. So don't reject strokes. Yeah, so what lessons do we learn as a child around all of those things? And when I think about them, so don't give strokes. I love giving strokes. But what I will point out, and is something that I am very aware of. So I give strokes to strangers. I will say, and I guess these are conditional ones, like with wearing a nice dress. Your dress is nice. Remember, this lady comes out and it was so swishy. Lovely. And I commented on that. But she might not be in a position to accept the strokes. So some people, and I describe it as, if you are in an unhealthy relationship, let's say, and then someone gives you loads of strokes, all the strokes, you've now gone from an unhealthy relationship to a really textbook healthy relationship. That's like going from Stoke-on-Trent to the Amazon, to the Sahara Desert. It's too much, too fast, too soon. And you're just totally disorientated, for those amount of strokes. So when I give strokes, I am aware that sometimes it might not land with that person because they might not be able to accept that stroke for whatever situation they're in. But I think 9 times out of 10, it will be okay. So far, I haven't had someone say, stop saying nice things about me.
Yeah.
But it might happen one day. And I am aware of that. But I wouldn't want that to take away from the 8-9 times out of 10 that it works well. And then if it does happen, I'll learn from that. So I do love giving strokes, and I really try my absolute best to make people feel seen as individuals. Don't ask for strokes. Oh my gosh. I will complete a task. I'll be really, really proud of it. Give me praise. Give me praise. Somebody in the room, give me praise. I need praise. So we sorted out all the cleaning stuff, got it all organised. Well, not just cleaning stuff, but kitchen, training room, office, cleaner's office, got it all organised. And Rob actually said to people, make sure you give Jen praise when she comes in. So now I was in the corridor and someone from another office came down and she says, oh, this looks so good. Like the toilets look loads better. And when the visitors come in, it's really nice. I said, did Rob tell you to say that? So I will ask for praise, because if I've got this need, I can't be upset or mad at you for not meeting my need. Like, you're not a mind reader.
No.
Give me praise. So I will ask.
My little one is brilliant at that. Well, he's now 5. He's just turned 5. My son. He's always asks for strokes. And I think it's the cutest little thing. So he'll spend loads of time drawing or colouring. Mummy, as little kids do, he words it funnily. How do you think of my drawing? How do you think of the cat so far? And I'll say, I think it's brilliant, Albie, well done, or, whatever. Or he'll say, now he's got to the point of, he'll say, and do you like my drawing? And then he'll stop and go, I know, you don't like it. You love it. Because that's what we've heard. We've said that so many times. I don't just like it, pal. I love it. Aww. But he asks for it. And I find it really funny. I find it incredibly endearing. But I love that he's already, I want strokes for this. I want you to stroke me because my drawing is lovely. I want you to stroke me because I have been playing by myself for 3.5 minutes. Have you seen that I'm playing? I'm playing really nicely. Playing by himself is not something that he does regularly at all. So have you seen it? I'm doing it. So he asks for them already. And
to feel comfortable enough and safe enough to be able to ask them.
Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, it is.
Don't ask for strokes. Oh, yeah, I do. Don't accept strokes. So I've got here, imagine someone baked you a cake, the best cake ever. How do they do it? You offer them a compliment and up comes a barrier. No, thank you, not today. Don't give me compliments about my baking. Is you trying to say, well done, this cake was the best cake I've ever had. And then you say, nope. Could have done better. Is you giving that compliment? How do you feel having that barrier put up? And think about that. And the reason why I say think about it is now when somebody gives you a compliment and you put that barrier up,
yeah,
how is it making that person feel? And will they continue to do it, or will they stop it?
Yeah. There's a little girl at my daughter's football. She's the team captain, and she's a cracking little footballer. And my daughter is the goalie. It's because she's already half mad. She's mad enough to already be diving around on the floor and stuff. And at the end of matches, the parents will vote for who they think the player of the match is. And on 2 occasions, this little girl has been voted player of the match. And she said, no, I don't want it. I think Pixie should have it, and given it to my daughter. And Pixie's been a bit I don't know what to do with this. And on the second time that it happened, I said to this little girl, it is such a kind thing that you have done to pass that on. But you do know that it's okay for you to take what the parents have said and for you to receive the little trophy and the recognition for being the player of the match, don't you? And she was a bit like, and actually, normally, well, the first time it happened, when my daughter tried to give her the trophy back, no, you keep it. The second time, she let her give her it back and said, oh, yeah, thank you very much. But clearly, she was already a bit, oh, no, I'll pass it off. I'll pass it on to someone else, which is it's such a kind trait to want to recognise someone else. Unlike your compliment of you just giving it back. No, I'm not accepting that. Well, actually, no, I think someone else deserves it more than me. But to then be able to say, okay, and sit with that and that idea of, yeah, actually, I do deserve that stroke. She doesn't know it's a stroke, but yeah, I do deserve that. I think is really important.
Yeah. And also, what message is it giving to your daughter if she's not voted by the adults, but her peer is giving it? So could that then be, well, the adults don't think I deserve it? So on the surface, it appears a really nice thing, but we don't know how it's being received.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that might depend on the day. It might depend if your daughter's eaten that day and, she's a little bit hangry, or, she's saved all these amazing goals or whatever. Like, there's so many different things that will take into consideration when we accept the strokes.
Yeah.
And then I have got don't reject strokes. So strokes can be positive and negative. What if someone says they don't like your dress? Imagine if you were not... So imagine if you're not flooded with self-doubt, wishing you'd stuck to the black number instead of going out with a pattern dress, for example. So let me start again. If someone says they don't like your dress, this is where I've gone wrong, they don't like your dress. If you were not then flooded with self-doubt and thinking, I should have just worn the black one. Why did I wear the patterned one? And instead you said, I like it. And you look great in yours. Like, what difference could that have for your whole evening? I like it. And that's a really bad example, actually, isn't it? Don't reject strokes.
So don't reject strokes is that idea that you must always take the stroke. But if you think about it, it is, right? Because that's
that was a negative stroke.
Yeah. So you're not then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not taking that negative stroke.
It's the end of the day.
It is the end of the day. We've had a long day filming.
It's the end of the day. I was really confusing because it was like a negative, and I was like, oh, wait there. Wait a minute. No, that does work. So we're not accepting. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, don't reject. Don't reject. But they're the myths around it, right? That don't reject strokes is a myth that we shouldn't ever give them.
It made sense when I was behind a computer screen. And now I'm like, does it make sense? The myth is don't reject. So we have not absorbed, I don't like your dress. And then we have said, but I like it.
Yeah.
So we have rejected the negative stroke. Okay. Are you following this better than I'm following this? Let me know in the comments below.
Tryan's going to watch this back and be like, no, girls, you've missed the mark on that one. And don't reject strokes. This is all part of the learning process.
It is. Yeah. That was really confusing then in my brain. Okay. Have we made sense of that situation?
I think so. Yeah. And then don't stroke yourself.
Don't stroke yourself. So this one, I think this one can be, for me, can be quite difficult. Saying, yeah, do you know, I am quite good at this. Yeah, I am quite good at this. Or even like that physical strokes, like touching your feet. And I think people don't always think about how important touch is to somebody else. So although the strokes aren't, actual stroking, if we think about the hungers, that we have where touch is, it can be a hunger. So to actually just kind of recognize, I know if I've done a lot and I've been on my feet a lot, just actually like contact with myself, touching my feet, rubbing my feet a little bit, and just recognizing that, do you know what? I've had a great day. I've had an absolutely fantastic day. I remember when I did a Tough Mudder. Oh my gosh. But there was something about, for me at that time, like having the contact with my body and appreciating like what my body had got me through that day. Because have you ever done Tough Mudder? Oh my gosh, the cold water.
Birthday.
Oh,
I had everyone singing happy birthday to me on the way around.
I can't even walk and talk on the phone, let alone sing happy birthday and do a Tough Mudder. But for me, it was the cold water. But thinking about having that contact with yourself and recognizing that, yeah, do you know what? I've done a really good job today. And not feeling like, oh, shouldn't have said that out loud. Did anybody hear me?
No. In a way, I feel, and I don't want to confuse this situation again, but I feel like that almost goes with the last example about the dress. Well, I like my dress. I think I look really nice in my dress.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm going to go about my evening now.
Yeah.
And it's okay for you to reject their negative stroke and to give yourself a positive stroke instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that then brings us nicely onto time structuring, which this is the idea, this is that hunger for how we structure our time to make sure that we get the strokes that we need.
Big light bulb moment for me on time structuring. Big light bulb moment.
So within time structuring, there are 6, Berne said there's 6 different ways that we spend our time. And I think of them a bit like, almost like a staircase, like going up the stairs. Like for the lower down you are, the less strokes you get, but less risk. You know what's going to happen.
If you fall off the step, it's not going to work too much.
And as you go up, the higher the stroke intensity, that doesn't necessarily mean you get loads more. I'm doing my hands. Loads more strokes, but they are a better quality stroke. They're a deeper stroke. But there's also much more risk where you're at because you have less control. And so, yeah, I feel like that's a little bit like, you know, you're on top of the stairs and, you know, you have much more potential to fall off. So we'll start exploring those and what each of those sections are. So we start with withdrawal.
Yeah, so I'll just read out them first.
Fine, yeah.
And then we'll go into them. So we've got withdrawal, rituals, pastimes, activities, games, and intimacy. Withdrawal. So I've got here, can be a learned behaviour. If you've got an angry parent, maybe you're withdrawing to your room. If you're sensing conflict within a group, maybe you'll withdraw to avoid any tension.
Should also point out, it doesn't have to mean physical withdrawal as well. You are in the space physically still, but you are removed from it emotionally, psychologically. You're not getting involved with what's going on. It's like being at the family party, but you're not getting involved in the discussion that's going on around the table.
Yeah.
You have withdrawn in that way.
And it's not always negative. Like, I need to withdraw sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
I love being on my own. I love it. I love it when so rather than come in the office, let's say, if I've been working off site and then I go home, rather than coming to the office and then going home, and there's no more cars there. So there's nobody else there. And I'm like, oh, I've got the house to myself. It might only be for half an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't do if Rob was there. Probably put the kettle on. So I'm like my nan, because I either need a cup of tea or a wee. So they're the things that I'll prioritise. So I'm not doing anything different than if Rob was there. But sometimes it's just nice just to have that space and gather my thoughts. So withdrawal, it's not always a negative. And I think recharging your batteries and things like that.
Yeah, but it is worth pointing out. So that's the lowest end of the scale in terms of number of strokes and risk. So that's why people who spend too much time by themselves actually it's like solitary confinement is such an intense punishment. There are no strokes there. And so whilst it's nice for short periods of time, when you're spending a lot of time there, on a psychological level, it's not great for you.
Yeah. And then we've got rituals. So I said during lockdown to Rob, I think the dog's depressed. I think the dog's getting really sad. I think Sam's getting really sad. And it wasn't. It was me, because I missed saying hello to other dog owners.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we were at opposite ends of the park, opposite ends of the field. And those small strokes of acknowledgement and recognition that you exist and I can see you and you're here and you're a person weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
So I really missed those. But I was verbalizing it, my feelings, because I didn't quite fully understand them at the time, and projecting them onto the dog. But actually, I hadn't considered until those interactions weren't there anymore, how important they were for me.
Yeah. And so rituals are then, like you say, your sort of interactions with the other dog owners, they're very predictable. You know what's going to happen. Morning, you're right. Yeah, you. Yeah. And off you go. What you're not expecting is, morning, you're right. No, I'm not. No. Got
a flat tire.
I've got a flat tire this morning. I've got this, I've got that.
Price of petrol.
Yeah.
Mechanics.
Yeah.
Can't find a good one.
Yeah. That's moved beyond a ritual. We've gone out of our ritual space. We're not having the interactions that we would normally have. So rituals, as Jenna said, you're getting that acknowledgement. Someone sees you as a human being. Someone wants to spend some time on some small interactions with you, but your stroke yield, what you're getting from it, it's small. Mm-hmm. There's not much risk there. You're not opening yourself up that actually, no, I'm not all right. It's one of those, whatever happens, whatever it is that's going on in your head, you're going to say you're all right. Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, you. Yeah. And that's it. And you're off for your day. Those are our rituals.
Yeah. And then we've got pastimes. So this is a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I said to you before, what are you watching on Netflix? And I think that's quite a common one now. Oh, I haven't seen that. Have you seen it? Oh, I'm not really into those things. I'm more into this. And having those additional conversations, which there is lots of talking involved, but we're not really doing anything. And again, the risk, well, if you don't watch the same program as I do, that's okay. And if you say you don't like, it's okay. So there is some predictability as well. And the conversation might go. So polite conversation is what I've got, usually safe and can dwindle off. Mm-hmm. And when I think about it in the office, what tends to happen is we'll have a conversation and then we'll just go back to work. Nobody ends the conversation, just kind of has a comfortable, end to it. And then we just get on with our work again. And then we come back and have a bit more. And then just dwindles off.
Oh, I didn't
dwindles off.
I didn't do the blah. There we go.
So we've got pastimes and activities. So this one was the real light bulb moment for me when it came to relationships. So I've got here, positive strokes are given when the activity is completed or being planned. We're not simply talking about it. We'll do this, never happened. We're actually doing it. We're booking things. And then we are doing the tough mudder or whatever that might be. Yeah, putting in steps to make it happen. And within the workplace, strokes can be conditional depending on completing an expected standard of activity. So we all praise each other like, hey, we met the deadline or we hit a target or whatever we did. This is what I need to do to hit that target. This is what you need to do. So we're in activities. And I realised once I came up to time structure when I was learning about TA that I spent a lot of time in activity alone with ex-partners. But we were together. So how was it that we spent all that time and we didn't, that was what we did. We didn't actually reach intimacy. But until I found this part of TA, it just felt like something was missing. Having fun and we're smiling a lot and there's lots of pictures. We've got lots of memories, but it just can't put my finger on it. So that was a huge light bulb moment for me. Activities. And this is where I'm spending far too much time in this relationship. We either need to move and get closer and have different conversations, or we need to separate. Separated. And when we get to intimacy, I'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah. And I've got sort of a funny one in terms of activities, because activity can also mean not just the talking and the planning about the activity that you're doing. You've gone out for dinner. You're talking about the restaurant. Where we are. Isn't it nice? Oh, it's a bit noisy in here tonight, whatever. And how's your dinner? And what's this? And you're talking about what it is, the activity that you're actually in at that moment. And I went for a night out with a friend a few weeks ago. And she's a very sort of similar situation to me, lives with her partner. They're soon to be married. They've got 2 young kids. So sort of nights out and things together are rare, as a couple, because, babysitters. Neither of us have, family on tap and things that can look after the kids. And I said to her, but please tell me I'm not the only one that when you go out, when you finally get that time out that you crave, all you do is either talk about your meal or talk about the kids. She was like, oh my God, yeah. She said, I was only saying to someone else last week, what do people who don't have kids talk about when they're out for dinner? I'm like, I can't remember it.
The dogs.
Yeah, well, this is what do you talk about when you're out? Now, that's not to say for even a second that I don't then have like intimacy in my relationship as well. I absolutely do. But it is quite a funny sort of thing to me that we crave that time out of the house, just us, no kids. And then we get the time out of the house and we end up in activity or pastimes.
About the kids.
About the kids. Oh, anyway, on to games.
Yes, interesting.
This is not Monopoly. This is not playing a fun game. It's not games in TA mean a bit of a different thing.
Yeah, and we are covering that in a couple of episodes time. More in depth. So we've got here, games are not part of the adult ego. Adult ego is in the here and now, taking information from the here and now. But learn behaviours from childhood which likely no longer serve our needs adequately. Games involve discounting and payoffs, leaving both parties feeling bad. Feelings expressed are not usually appropriate to the situation, and the situation is not usually resolved, hence why some people will replay for a lifetime. Now, we are going to do a whole video on this, but this is part of the time structuring, so it felt a bit silly if we'd miss this bit out. What would you like to say about games?
Games are a very high stroke yield situation. There are lots and lots of strokes being flung around during games, but at the end of the games, we feel crap. So this is kind of like the outcome of games, that at the end of it, we both feel rubbish. And I won't go into too much detail because it might be that I go into this more during the game episode. But I had a game with my dad about TA, of all the things. And as we talk through games, in the episode, we can look at like how the games are structured and what it is that makes a game. And as I'm talking to my dad, I could see each element as it was coming, what it is, and I still decided to play.
They can be addictive.
Like, it's coming. I know it's I'm not going to do it. I'm not. No, that's it. I'm off. I'm in. And in I jumped with both feet. And ultimately, what was happening in this game was I wanted recognition from my dad that what I'm doing and learning in TA is worthwhile. And what my dad wanted was recognition that his thoughts and opinions and experience of life outside of TA or outside of any formal psychological learning or training is also valid. But we didn't ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get those needs met, we got in a game and we ended up at loggerheads over who was actually right about these two sides of the coin. And that's what happens in games. It's a way that we get our needs met. It's a way that we get lots of strokes, but not in a positive way.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it in more detail when we do the games video, but I became very addicted to playing games with an ex, and it brought out a part of me that I didn't like, and I'd never experienced before. So when we've spoken in other videos about what part of you do other people bring out when you're around other people, I didn't like that bit, but I loved the game. I was addicted to the game. And it just got me every time. And it was exciting. It was exciting.
Gave you strokes.
Mm-hmm.
It gave you them. So of course it's addictive. It's a little bit like a smoker getting their nicotine. Every time you start a game, you're lighting that cigarette and away you go. And I'm going to get my hit. I'm going to get my fix. I'm not going to feel good afterwards, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah. And again, once you recognize the patterns and once you take a step back to observe from a different perspective and you can see what's going on around you rather than being in it all the time, you can start to pick up on these games and you can start to recognize them much earlier on and then have the option to withdraw, not accept. No, not playing that anymore. So yeah, games, there's lots in that. So then we go on to intimacy. And with intimacy, there's risk.
Lots of risk in intimacy, yeah, because you're fully open. This has nothing to do with sex, by the way. It's nothing to do with any kind of sexual intimacy. This is about you, that sort of psychological, you're really open on a psychological level. Yeah, very, very open, very, I was going to say very intimate, but that's the point.
Yeah, and we've got there's no games, there's no ulterior transactions.
No.
It's being congruent, and I found it quite difficult to get to this stage, and I almost find it overwhelming. So with my husband, I would say that's where we are. We do spend a lot of time in intimacy. We've got a lot of trust. We've got a lot of openness and awareness. And sometimes it can be really, really overwhelming. Like how I have got this person who kind of warts and all accepts me for me and isn't trying to make me feel bad or trying to get me involved in a game or, just allowing me to be.
And to be the true you.
Yeah.
It's that idea, no mask, no pretending. It doesn't have to be the me that I'm showing to the outside world. And by the way, intimacy doesn't just have to be experienced with your partner. You can have really intimate moments with friends. You can have intimate moments with colleagues, if you've really opened up about something, and you have made yourself really quite vulnerable. And that's where the risk then comes, doesn't it? Is that other person going to join you in intimacy and sort of hold you there and let you know that that's okay? Or are they going to go and gossip about it? Or are they going to reject what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, you can say whatever you want. And there's no, you shouldn't have done that. Why did you do that? It's just being. And yeah, I find it very, very overwhelming sometimes that I've got this person in my life that despite all these difficult conversations that we might have, through them and through this honesty that we both have, we're then able to grow closer together. So yeah, intimacy. And what I was saying before about how do you know how many strokes that person can have, and not everyone can accept the strokes in the same way. Some people will not be able to get to that stage because they might be stuck in games forever. That might just be their loop. And then the thought of being and sharing that intimacy with someone is too much of a risk for them. I'll go back to the familiar. This is where I feel safe. This is my predictable pattern. That other stuff, like, I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet.
I was watching Good Will Hunting, Tryon. If Tryon watching. I watched Good Will Hunting.
It's on my to-do list.
I watched Good Will Hunting, and there's a part in that in the film where Matt Damon's character is in a relationship with a girl, and I'm gonna hope I'm not spoiling this for people because this is a super old film. I don't think it'll spoil it anyway because it's only a really brief part. But she really opens up to him, and she tells him that she loves him and she really wants to get to know him. But his way of responding to that is to tell her all the horrible things that have happened to him. Do you want to hear about how this happened? And I won't say that this and that and the other. Do you want to hear about this? Is that what you want to know? Do you want to know this? You want to know that? Getting really, really angry, and then rejects the way that she feels. No, and I do not love you. Go. But this is what happens for people as they who really struggle to get into intimacy. We sabotage. It's for whatever reason, learned behaviour, it is not safe for us to be that open and that vulnerable with someone. So we shut down and we move away from.
Yeah.
To a place that we know and that we're comfortable with.
And those things that you're saying, do you want to know this? Do you want to know that? That can be like, get away, keep your distance. Like, I can't.
Yeah. And, in the film, he's sort of saying it in a way of, you couldn't possibly love me if you knew that this was what had happened, and you couldn't possibly love me. Those aren't his words, but that was my interpretation of the way that he is coming back at her with this. So that's the other way of pushing you away because I can't be in intimacy with you.
And, it does make me sad because I have such a lovely relationship. I've had plenty of not lovely ones, but me and Rob, like, it just makes me so happy, and how we interact with each other. And it does make me sad thinking that there may be people who will never experience that. And I don't mean to say they have to do everything exactly how we do. So they have to live and work together, and they have to like dogs, and they have to... I'm not saying that. But just those feelings of like the trust and being able to say anything to him and was working through it. Like that, it does... I've got a sadness of that some people might not experience that.
Totally agree.
Sadness.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So with awareness, we can start to walk up those stairs.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we can think, and also to recognise the value in the strokes that we get lower down the line. I've had it with people who move into new teams. People that I coach who move into new teams who have maybe had really good relationships. Some microphone. Some that have entered
Mine's got
into...
a wobble on now.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. It'll be all wobbly sounding. Who have entered into, they've had moments of intimacy with the members of their team where they've been able to be really open, and then they move into a new team and they're suddenly lost because they can't be in the way that they were. They can't be intimate with these people like they were. And we forget about how actually maybe instead we can work lower down the line to build up those strokes, build up that relationship, and still get our stroke yield, still get those number of strokes that we want. And it can also work really well in terms of if you have, so let's say, for example, a really difficult family relationship, and people are telling you just cut ties, Should have nothing to do with them. But that feels one step too far for you. You know, the thought of not having them around at all is really quite difficult. But you know that you need to protect yourself on a psychological level. So what can you do? When you are with those people, you spend your time further down that scale. And if they start to try and move you further up, you can distract and move them back down. Oh, do you remember? Do you remember when we went to, I don't know, Benidorm? I've never been to Benidorm, but do you remember? We went to Benidorm? We saw, doesn't it look like that cat that we saw on the beach? Can you tell I'm no good at improv? I would be no good in that drama class.
That cat with the stripy pajamas.
Yeah, you know, whatever.
And the yellow hat.
Yeah, you know, but that you can still be with them and protect yourself on that psychological level as they start to try and move you into games, because that's often why we try and separate ourselves from people, because we recognise that we end up in games, we don't want to be there, distract and you can move down. No, I'm not going into that space with you, but instead, oh, look at that. Don't you worry about that. Have you seen this over there? And away we go, and we stick to a really safe level of openness and safe level of strokes.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. And there's and acknowledging that some people we might want intimacy with, but they might not be there. So then it might only ever be that we reach that activity level, that we reach that pastiming level, and then having that as our awareness of, am I okay with that? Is this going to be okay? Do I need to have a conversation to discuss with them about, you know, I feel like we're stuck or something? Or do I need to accept that this is their limit? This is their psychological safe limit, and they are not going to pass wherever we are. So I will appreciate and value that time that we get together. And it might never get to intimacy, even though I would like it. It's not going to be there. So I will appreciate our time and activity.
Yeah. And recognise that I'm still okay, they're still okay. Which I think probably takes us nicely into next week, where we're looking at life positions.
Yeah.
But as we go then, as always, something...
we have some questions.
Yeah, something for you to think about.
Yes.
In between.
So one was, what did you get strokes for as a child? And the other one was, have you had strokes today? Have you received? Have you given?
Yeah. I would add with the what were you stroked for as a child, and do you still do that now? Whether that's positive or negative, by the way, don't forget that. We may have received negative strokes for doing something that we still find ourselves doing today, because we still get the negative strokes for it. What about the positive things too? And then, what about your day? Where have you spent it on that time structuring scale? Look at the people around you. Where are your relationships? Do you have have you spent a lot of time in pastimes, in activities? Even though we've not fully covered games yet, do you feel like you might have spent some time in games? Are you able to achieve intimacy with someone? Have you done that today?
And I've just remembered from the previous video, we talked about you getting strokes for being boring. And if that is the message you then get from the world, we like it when you do this, we like it when you say these things, we like it when you do these things, and then you get strokes for them, it might be that that's what you don't explore any other parts of you because you're getting strokes for them. So think about, what is it that you get strokes for? What is it that you get strokes for as a child? And is that behaviour? So I mentioned about organising and preparing, and I can see that is still there today. Whereas my I'm going to say office then, my desk will be the messiest one in the office because I'm organising and helping everybody else, and then leaving myself till last. So that's something that from our conversation, I'm like, yeah, that still happens. I've still taken that with me. And could you get more strokes by accident? This is a lot of questions now.
I know this is a lot to think. Yeah. Maybe just choose one. Choose one and think about that one. Let us know in the
comments below which one you chose.
Which one you've chosen. Yeah, absolutely.
But could you ask for some strokes? Could you do that? Would that feel okay, asking for some strokes? That'd be fine. That'd be my preference. Do that. I'd like everybody to get time strokes. Shall we cut there before we keep on giving people more homework?
Absolutely. Until next time.
Just muting my mic.
Stop her from talking.
And we'll see you next week on Translate Relate.
See you then.